Chapter 31. Job continues, I promised myself never to stare with desire at a young woman. God of powerful punished man. Who do that? In fact, God sends disaster on all who sin, and He keeps a close watch on everything I do. I am not dishonest or deceitful, and I beg God to prove my innocence. If I have disobeyed Him or even wanted to, then others can eat my harvest and uproot my crops. If I have desired someone's wife and chased after her, then let some stranger steal my wife from me. If I took someone's wife, it would be a horrible crime, sending me to destruction and my crops to the flames. When my servants complaining against me, I was fair to them. Otherwise, what answer would I give to God when He judged me? After all, God is the one who gave life to each of us before we were born. I have never cheated anyone. I have never cheated widows or others in need, and I have always shared my food with orphans. Since the time I was young, I have cared for orphans and helped widows. I provided clothes for the poor, and I was praised for supplying woolen garment to keep them warm. If I have raised my arm to threaten an orphan when the power was mine, I hope that arm will fall from its socket. I could not have been abusive. I was terrified at the thought that God might punish me. I have never trusted the power of wealth or taken pride in owning many possessions. I have never openly or secretly worship the sun or moon. Such horrible sins would have deserved punishment from God. I have never laughed when my enemies were struck by disaster. Neither I have sinned by asking God to send down on them the curse of death. No one ever went hungry in my house, and travelers were always welcome. Many have attempted to hide their sins from others, but I refused, and the fear of public disgrace never forced me to keep silent about what I had done. Why doesn't God listen? Why doesn't God, all powerful, listen and answer? If God has something against me, let Him speak up or put it in writing. Then I would wear His charges on my clothes and forehead, and with my head held high, I would tell Him everything I have ever done. I have never mistreated and land I famed and made it mourn, nor have I cheated my workers and caused them pain. If I had, I would pray for weeds instead of wheat to grow in my field. After saying these things, Job was silent. Elihu is upset with Job's friends. Finally, these three men stopped arguing with Job because he refused to admit he was guilty. Elihu from Buz was there, and he had become upset with Job for blaming God instead of himself. He was also angry with Job's three friends for not being able to prove that Job was wrong. Elihu was younger than these three, and he let them speak first, but he became irritated when they could not answer Job, and he said to them, "I'm much younger than you, so I have shown respect by keeping silent. I once believed the age was the source of wisdom. Now I truly realize wisdom comes from God. Age is no guarantee of wisdom and understanding. That's why I ask you to listen to me. I eagerly listened to each of your arguments, but not one of you proved Job to be wrong. You shouldn't say, 'We know what's right. Let God punish him.' Job hasn't spoken against me, and so I won't answer him with your argument. All of you are shocked. You don't know what to say. But am I to remain silent just because you have stopped speaking? No, I will give my opinion because I have so much to say that I can't keep quiet. I'm like a swollen wineskin. I will burst if I don't speak. I don't know how to be unfair or to flatter anyone. If I did, my Creator would quickly destroy me." Chapter 33. Elihu speaks. Job, listen to me. Pay close attention. Everything I will say is true and sincere, just as surely as the Spirit of God or powerful gave me the breath of life. Now line up your arguments and prepare to face me. We each were made from clay. God has no favorites, so don't be afraid of me or what I might do. I've heard you argue that you're innocent, guilty of nothing. You claim that God has made you his enemy, that he has bound your feet and blocked your path. But Job, you are wrong. God is greater than any human. So why do you challenge God to answer you? God speaks in different ways, and we don't always recognize his voice. Sometimes in the night, he used terrifying dreams to give us warnings. God does this to make us turn from sin to pride and to protect us from being swept away to the world of the dead. Sometimes we are punished with a serious illness and arching joint. Merely the thought of our favorite food makes our stomach sick, and we become so skinny that our bones stick out. We feel death and the grave taking us in their grip. One of the one of us thousand angels then comes to our rescue by saying we are innocent. The angel shows kindness, commanding death to release us because the price was paid. Our health is restored, we feel young again, and we ask God to accept us, then we joyfully worship God, and we are rewarded because we are innocent. When that happens, we tell everyone, I sinned and did wrong, by God forgave me and rescued me from death. Now I will see the right. God gives each of us chance after chance to be saved from death and brought into the light that gives life. So y'all pay attention and don't interrupt. Though I would gladly listen to anything you say that proves you are right, otherwise listen in silence to my wisdom. Chapter 34. Elihu continues. You men think you are wise, Elihu said. You men think you are wise, but just listen to me. Think about my words as you taste food, then we can decide the case and give a just verdict. Job claims he is innocent and God is guilty of mistreating him. Job also argues that God considered him a liar and that he is suffering severely in spite of his innocence. But to tell the truth, Job is shameless. He spends his time with sinners because he has said it doesn't pay to please God. If any of you are smart, you will listen and learn that God all powerful does what is right. God always treats everyone the way they deserve, and He is never unfair. From the very beginning, God has been in control of all the world. If God took back the breath that He breathed into us, we humans would die and return to the soil. So be smart and listen. The mighty God is the one who brings about justice, and you are condemning Him. Indeed, God is the one who condemns unfair laws. God created us all. He has no favorite. Whether rich or poor, even powerful rulers die in the darkness of night when they least be expected, just like the rest of us. God watches everything we do. No evil person can hide in the deepest darkness. And so God doesn't need to set up time for judgment. Without asking for advice, God removes the mighty leaders and puts others in their place. He knows what they are like, and He wipes them out in the middle of the night. And while others look on, He punished them because they were evil and refused to obey Him. The persons they mistreated had prayed for help until God answered their prayers. When God does nothing, can any person or nation find fault with Him? But still, He punishes rulers who abuse their people. Job, you should tell God that you are guilty and promise to do better. Then ask Him to point out what you did wrong, so you won't do it again. Do you make the rules, or does God? You have to decide. I can't do it for you. Now make up your mind. Job, anyone with good sense can easily see that you are speaking nonsense and lack good judgment. So I pray for you to suffer as much as possible for talking like a sinner. You have rebelled against God time after time, and have even insulted us. Job 35. Elihu continues, Are you really innocent? Elihu said, Job, are you really innocent in the sight of God? Don't you honestly believe it pays to obey Him? I'll give the answer to you and your friends. Look up the heavens and think. Do your sin hurt God? Is any good you may have done at all help to Him? The evil or good you do only affect other humans. In times of trouble, everyone begs the mighty God to have mercy, but after their Creator helps them through hard time, they forget about Him. Though He makes us wiser than animals or birds, God ought to listen to the prayers of proud and evil people. If God or powerful refuses to answer their empty prayers, He will surely deny your impatient request to face Him in court. Job, you are wrong to say God doesn't punish sin. Everything you have said that is up to nonsense. Elihu continues, Be patient a while longer. Elihu said, Be patient a while longer. I have something else to say in God's defense. God always does right, and this knowledge comes straight from God. You can rest burst that what I say is true. Although God is mighty, He cares about everyone and makes fair decisions. The wicked are cut down, and those who are wronged receive justice. God watches over good people and places them in positions of power and honor forever. But when people are prisoners of suffering and pain, God points out their sin and their pride. Then He warns them to turn back to Him, and if they obey, they will be successful and happy from then on. But if they foolishly refuse, they will be rewarded with a violent death. Godless people are too angry. Godless people are too angry to ask God for help when He punished them, so they die young in shameful disgrace. Hard times and trouble are God's way of getting our attention, and at this very moment, God deeply desires to rid you from trouble and to spread your table with your favorite food. Now that judgment for your sins has fallen upon you, don't let your anger and the pain you endure make you sneer at God. Your reputation and riches cannot protect you from distress, nor can you find safety in the dark world below. Be on guard. Don't turn to evil as a way of escape. God's power is unlimited. He needs no teachers to guide or correct Him. Others have praised God for what He has done, so join with them. From down here on earth, everyone has looked up and seen how great God is. God is more than we imagine. None can count the years He has lived. God gathers moisture into the clouds and supplies us with rain. Who can understand how God scatters the clouds and speaks from his home in the thunderstorm? And when God sends lightning, it can be seen at the bottom of the sea. By producing such rainstorms, God rules the world and provides us with food. Each flash of lightning is one of his arrows striking each target, and the thunder tells of his anger against sin. Elihu continues, I am frightened and tremble all over. When I heard the roaring voice of God in the thunder, and when I see his lightning flash across the sky, God's majestic voice thunders his commands, creating miracles too marvelous for us to understand. Snow and heavy rainstorms make us stop and think about God's power, and they force animals to seek shelter. The windstorms of winter strike, and the breath of God freezes streams and rivers. Rain clouds filled with lightning appear at God's command, traveling across the sky to release their cargo, sometimes as punishment for sin, sometimes as kindness. Consider carefully the many wonders of God. Can you explain why lightning flashes at the others of God who knows all things? Or how he hanged the clouds in empty space? You almost melt in the heat of fierce desert winds when the sky is like brass. God can hammer out the clouds in spite of the oppressive heat. Can you tell us what to say to God? Our minds are in the dark and we don't know how to argue our case. Should I risk my life by telling God that I want to speak? No one can stare at the sun after a breeze that blown the clouds from the sky. Yet the glorious splendor of God all powerful is brighter by far. God cannot be seen, but his power is great and he is always fair. And so humans fear God because he shows no respect for those who are proud and think they know so much. Amen.